Good morning, Patrick. How are you today?
I'm well, Taina. How are you today?
Great, thank you. It's so interesting that we just live a state away from each other, but we're always on the computer.
Yeah,
Um,
we've never met in person.
Never. But I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk about um, a program that you're going to be holding for couples. So I'll just give some background. Anybody who knows either one of us knows that we facilitate EMDR trainings quite frequently together. Um, and I was really interested when I heard this concept about Hold Me Tight because that's
Mhm.
something I'm just learning about. So if you would like to give us just a introduction of yourself and tell
Yeah,
us a bit about what you're doing.
sure. So I'm Patrick Manette. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm in private practice in New York as well as in the state of Florida. And I am a certified EMDR therapist, as well as a certified EFT, which stands for Emotional Focused Therapy for Couples Therapist. And for many years, for the majority of my career, actually, since grad school, I have really enjoyed working with couples. And throughout my career, I've tried learning, not tried, but worked on learning new skills and different approaches of how to best assist clients where they're at to help them with whatever various issues they're going on. And when I was trained in EFT, I discovered a program that they offered called Hold Me Tight. So it's an evidence based program that the founder of EFT, Dr. Sue Johnson, who unfortunately passed away this last year, created, and I really fell in love with it. So EFT is is something that I incorporate into my regular therapy. But what I have found over the years is a lot of couples kind of fall through the cracks with getting the right support and being able to find the right connection with a therapist or a coach or someone who can really see the couple as equals and as partners who want the same thing but may not know how to get there. I've always loved, as I said, I loved couples therapy, but there was some things that were missing from it. And so when I started offering the Hold Me Tight program, it was funny because I was originally planning on doing it live in person, and then that was actually, I think, March 2020. And so as we know, the world just sort of changed after that. And so I transitioned and pivoted like everyone else onto doing it online, and I've done it in a couple different versions. I've offered it in a couple different versions where I've done group options where, and I know people kind of freak out when they hear like a group couples that I don't want anyone to know I'm there. But the way that I do the group is to respect people's privacy. And I'm the only one that has my camera on. And so it's sort of like taking a course. People can interact with me directly, but it gives them sort of that extra level of privacy so they can be at home in their jammies, they can be having date night, they can be, doing different things if, managing things at home, but being able to put the focus on this is for us where we don't really have to worry about other people. And I've really enjoyed that option. But over the last couple years, one of my favorite options for Hold Me Tight is actually a private Hold Me Tight, which means it's just one on one with me and a couple. And what we do is we meet for 8 weeks for an hour and a half each week. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's filled with so much information, knowledge, and tools to help couples. First of all, to help me see what the couple is dealing with, where they're coming from. I really love to know their romance story, how they fell in love. Because if people are struggling for whatever reason, I want to know, how did they get here? And part of that is knowing, how did you fall in love? And I remember when I really first started Hold Me Tight and asking that question, couples were really shocked because they're so used to thinking about the bad. Well, the bad didn't just get born. It was, it happens, but when couples are in pain, it happens because they've lost each other, right? There's a disconnection. And usually in relationships in couples therapies, as I have seen, is, there's one partner who might be more reserved to be in therapy. Unfortunately, without going down a rabbit hole, couples therapy doesn't really get a great rap in our world, and in social media and in TVs. And sometimes people don't need therapy, or it's not necessarily that they want therapy, or they might be in couples therapy. And this is a really beautiful adjunct to that, which I was surprised the more I offered it. I've worked with couples who are just doing Hold Me Tight. I've worked with couples who are in individual therapy, not therapy, all around. And it worked for all of them. Like, it just helped, it gave them a solid foundation. The way as Taina knows, I'm a big foodie, so I use a lot of food analogies of being able to give the couple a box of ingredients, but they get to decide what they make for their meal. Because ultimately the couple is the expert on the relationship. I'm just giving them the tools to sort of clear out the pain, the frustration, to give them scripts and the language that they may not have to be able to not only express their needs to their partner, but also to be able to receive or be more receptive, I should say, to their clients' needs or their partner's needs, which sometimes is really hard when we're in pain. And so each week we have a curriculum set up. So it has a nice schedule, but it's very flexible because people have different things going on in their lives. And I wanted a program, I wanted to offer something to couples that met couples wherever they were at. So each week we meet for an hour and a half. And every time I do it, I add a little bit more to it, just like a good recipe, right? You want to add a little more spice. So we meet for 8 weeks. And during those 8 weeks, client couples are also able to contact me via text or email if they're struggling or they don't understand one of the assignments or they're getting in a negative cycle and they just need another intervention. So I always do a follow-up email with them kind of as a recap because I know how busy couples are, especially if we're talking about couples who are just like, so much on their plates. If we're talking about couples who are parents or people who are just pulled in a million directions, Hold Me Tight really helps to get them back on the same highway, right? Highway of love. We want them to be dancing together. And we want them both to feel respected and valued in the relationship and to be able to express their needs in a safe and healthy way. And so during the 8 weeks, we meet, as I said, for the hour and a half. And then I do the follow up. If they have any issues, I'm usually right there. Um, and then after the 8 weeks, I always like to do a follow-up session, which is our ninth session. And that's usually I like to do about 3 or 4 weeks out because I want it's a lot of information. It's a lot of um, wisdom to integrate into change, into process, into practice. And I want to give the couple just some time to digest it. So I follow up with them about 3 or 4 weeks out, see if they need any tweaking, if they need additional support. Some couples are good to go after the 9 weeks, and then some couples tend to stay on, and we do updated Hold Me Tight sessions and proceed from there, depending on their needs. Um, is that a fair is any questions? I know I'm a fast talker, and I
No.
nerd out about this stuff, but because I love it. I really love it.
Yeah, I think it sounds fascinating. And then also, I'm wondering, have you seen any particular themes or kind of topics that have happened more since we did you referenced going into that hard pivot of how we lived our lives, and in some situations that added some additional stressors into relationships.
I I think when the lockdown was happening, it was different than it is now. I think because people were just like, I can't get a break from you, and so being able to figure out where I love my kids, but if I have to see them again, I'm like, all the things most of us saw and experienced. So being able to figure out how to create those pockets of time, being able in a safe way at that time of being able to separate and work through those conflict. I think as times evolved, the themes that I see are people are burnt out, stressed, and overextended. And the couple, the relationship is usually the recipient of that. It's usually the one that takes the burden. Because how many times do we hear, a couple might say, "Oh, we'll put that off later," or "This isn't, I don't really have time for this. We don't have but the kids have to come first. The relationship has to come last. We'll just put it on the back burner." But just like an infection, when there's an injury between a couple, it's only going to get worse if we don't address it. And I think that's what Hold Me Tight does of being able to help clients, couples, wherever they're at, to really see where are the injuries, where are the wounds, and to also give them that hope that they can revitalize their relationship.
And if somebody is looking to explore Hold Me Tight with their partner, how are they getting in touch with you? Is this something that is available to people in different states? Because this is coaching, right?
Yeah, it's an educational program, so it's actually, like, international, which is really cool. Like, that's what I
Awesome.
loved about it too, because one, states that there where we can practice therapy is limited to what we are, and this opened the door to anywhere. It's also, that way it's like if I'm working with people, in Canada, I'm in, like I said, I'm in New York, or, I've had people reach out from Europe and whatnot. But being able to any state they're in, I've worked with people throughout the states, which is really great. It's also really nice because sometimes couples might be traveling, like, oh, the kids have a soccer tournament. One's going to be here, one's there, or there's a tennis tournament, but they can still log on and they're able to meet with me. And then they have a week to practice the skills. So it's really quite flexible. I offer limited selection of the group just because life gets busy throughout the year. The private one is an ongoing option. I have something called a discovery call, where it's just a free conversation where if someone's listening to this and like I'd really like more information, they can go to my website, patrickmanette.com, and you'll see under services for Hold Me Tight. You can see more of the information. You can read it and take your time, and then you can just discover free discovery call, and it's all really easy to do. No commitment, and then you and I can talk, or the three of us usually, about what's going on in your relationship to see if this would be a good fit for you. I try to make it as easy breezy for people because I know they're stressed and I know a lot of times people are in pain and I want to do whatever I can to support them.
And this is a question that I ask to everyone who comes to visit us on the T. What are you reading? What are you listening to?
I just started this interesting book called The Lost Bookshop, I think it's called. It's really interesting. It takes place in two different time zones, or two different time periods in Europe, about this magical bookshop that exists but doesn't exist.
Great. Now I have to add that to my list.
It's interesting. It's interesting. It pulls you in.
And is there anything else that we should know about you and how to best reach out for your services?
I'm active on Instagram, social media. I have, if you go to YouTube, you can see Manette Counseling Services. I did a podcast for 3 years. I took a little break from it called Friday Night Feels. So I really like having that because people can catch on. I mean, 3 years of episodes. I think I have over 80 episodes where people can just sort of get to know me that way. My website, I do a free weekly newsletter called Manette's Moments, which is just about like life and my experiences in mental health and couples. And you can sign up for there. If people love a free gift, you can go to my website and there's a free gift that you can sign up for that helps. That's all about helping conflict resolution with couples. So you can just sign up for that and it'll be instantly downloaded into your email.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. I really enjoyed having you on, and I can't wait to hear more about how Hold Me Tight is going to be going for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Taina. I appreciate it.
Patrick, you have a pretty unique experience in the perinatal space and what that looks like for couples, for families, however one's family is composed. I'm wondering if you can speak to that sense of connection or sometimes non-connection, as we just saw the report from the Surgeon General talk about, parenting, partnership, loneliness, and some of the things that affect our day-to-day lives. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Sure. I think that is a part of Hold Me Tight that I've included. That's sort of like my Patrickism spice, if you will. A lot of times when people come in for coaching for Hold Me Tight or for therapy, the presenting issue is usually something to do with communication. but it's really not about communication, it's about emotional connection or disconnection. And in the perinatal world, what we see is, it, depending if there is perinatal related trauma, how that can manifest in different couples and different relationships, really being able to see in a trauma informed way of how do each partner. How does each partner respond to stress, to conflict, and being able to give couples a platform to explore issues and conversations that they may have never expressed before. For example, one of the questions that I love to ask, um, and you can think about this, anyone that's watching, is when you were growing up, who served or who acted as a healthy role model of a healthy romantic couple? So who did you look up to when you were growing up and say, "Wow, I mean, maybe not in those words as a kid, but as an adult, we can say, "Wow, they're really in love. They're really, it's really romantic and they're really healthy." So just take a minute and think of that question, right? And what I've seen in my experience over 15 years of working with couples is there's only been very few times where someone said, "My parents." And so that just gets the wheels grinding of sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And it isn't to say that parents aren't romantic or they're not healthy or, it's not to judge that, but it's to say when you are new parents or when you've been parents for a while and your relationship has taken the back burner, something's off, especially when we're talking about the perinatal world where there's so many different components going on. So much pain, so much exhaustion, so much stress and worry about, your situation. And it's more painful when that disconnection with your partner is ongoing. The way I explain that disconnection with partners, it's sort of like when you have a power outage and you have no idea what's going on. It's really discerning. It's really discomfort. It's really uncomfortable, and the world becomes a lot scarier. That's what it's like when we're disconnected from our partner. And then when we get reconnected, the lights come back on and we can breathe that sigh of relief. So going back to your question, Taina, is when there is, and especially in the perinatal world, because there's so many different moving parts and pieces and doctors and supports and family, those moments of disconnection tend to happen more frequently. And what I try to do in those moments is I don't want to say band-aids, but really give some more leverage to help support the couple so they can find each other faster. Because ruptures and disconnections are normal, it's a part of life. We just don't want that to become the status quo of the relationship because then the relationship can't really foster and grow. We want them to be able to reconnect so they can be that united front and deal with whatever's coming fully supported at full strength.